Just needs I mean, like, it needs organ music and
See, and yes, either it needs organ music, and then we get to the top, and Burroughs is playing, or the Outsider is playing the organ.
Oh yeah, great.
Which then inexplicably vanishes for the final boss fight.
And then he shows the Triforce of Power.
Or we have Spanish monks basically mumbling at me and throwing flaming barrels down the stairs.
Yes, when some of them have scythes.
The Lord Regent.
It's quite a nice lighthouse,
Yeah.
I'd stay here.
I'd be a bit worried about sort of, like, sheer weight of everything, like, right on the top here, but, hey, that's somebody I killed.
He killed himself by walking into a wall of light that you reprogrammed.
That is true, true. Technically...
You spared his life.
Exactly.
And then he got himself
killed. What did he do with it? Okay, I wasn't actually expecting this to work.
That's good, isn't it?
It's very, very calm.
It is very calm. It's almost as if everyone's dead. Probably because they are.
You say that with a tinge of disappointment. Well, not disappointment.
There's no disappointment.
Disapproval.
There's no disapproval either.
Mm.
You murdered everyone, and it was hilarious. It is the exact playthrough that I think we didn't know we wanted at the start, but we knew we wanted by the end.
Oh dear. I won't try and read into that too much. Dunwall, and then we have Sagunto and Bastilan. Alright, so that's Fantasy Bristol. That's Fantasy Isle of Wight, I'm assuming. I don't know where. I mean, this is sort of Fantasy Spain, Italy, or maybe that's Fantasy Spain. Oh, and what's that on the other side? Whitecliff. I'm just glad I finally got to see an actual lift in this crappy world.
You should probably heal up your mana as well.
Yeah.
You've got plenty of remedies, there's no reason to be on low.
I mean, I've got 7 remedies.
Yeah.
That's absolutely ludicrous. I could literally just stop time and probably walk out the entire... That's not good.
No, it's not great, is
Wait,
it? There is a bunch of blood everywhere.
Not great, not terrible either. Hello? Anyone home? I'm gonna start smashing all your stuff.
I don't think so.
It's gonna come out. Wait. Did you just no-clip through the roof again, Glass?
No, it just didn't make a sound because it was too far away.
Oh boy. Excerpt from a book on the late Empress, Jessamine Caldwell. Many of those who lived through her reign will weep until the ends of their lives over the pale beauty with the piercing eyes and the foul end she met at the hands of her own twisted servant and protector. In her father's day, the Corbins were thrust into the limelight despite their distance to the throne, where the former dynasty provided no heirs. Prosperous age followed the emperor, but his daughter would have different luck. During her short life, political intrigue and minor conflicts created cracks in the empire, undermining unity across the Isles. Rat plague, however, was a terror for which neither Empress Colwyn nor any other living being was prepared. I've just realised that this is actually an empire, but it seems like there is absolutely no glamour or even like majesty to anywhere that we've been. Like,
No.
Are there fancy parts of Dunwall?
No, dude, it's Victorian London. Of course, there's no fancy parts.
Well, I mean, there were sort of impressive bits of London. What about Albertopolis? South Kensington.
What about the lighthouse that you're in right now?
Okay,
it's gigantic and filled with cool stuff.
Okay, well, I mean, like, this is the only bit. Like, it doesn't really feel like this is an.
I don't feel like South Ken in Victorian times would have been particularly nice either.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, the Royal Albert Hall. Oh boy.
But there is more of the Empire.
Yeah,
And there is...
It feels weird because it kind of feels like we're dealing with like a really, really like piddly little kingdom in a way.
Yeah, I think that's actually kind of what the game wants to evoke about where the Empire is right now. It feels small because the power of the Empress has been so undermined.
And it's led by small-minded men.
Yes.
Until I kill them all!
Hooray!
Corvo will drink from the sink. He will even drink from the bathtub. He will run all the taps and waste water. He's the sort of person who will go into lifts and press all the buttons.
Unfortunately, the lift that we were in only had one button to press, so...
Yeah, that's not great. Admiralty in the fleet.
None of this is particularly important.
No, this is really, really not terribly interesting. Like, how is it possible to write like that much and, you know, not really make any of it interesting? Oh, so this is where...
Attention duelists. My hair requires that you go to Dunwall Tower. Right. I'll see if there's an audiograph.
Oh boy, you're really right at the top. You're gonna do this, aren't you?
Oh yeah.
I've done such things. Cowardly things that I'm ashamed of. How could anyone ever forgive us? Would they? Even if things are better? No, that's not how it works. Once the bureaucrats step in, everything gets muddy. If anyone ever knew, we'd all lose our heads for this. So no one can know. And could we ever control Emily with Corvo around? That's the question that sticks in my mind. We need to make our final move, and we need to make it cleanly. No loose ends. Only a few in the know. The ones with the most to lose.
Havelock entry 7. Havelock entry 7.
Did not have done any of this without Corvo. For that I will be grateful. Oh, thank you. But I fear he did not have the vision to see the future we must achieve for Dunwall. We will not maintain our grip on the Empire with a little girl-setting policy. I believe Corvo's loyalty to the Corwin women would have clouded his head. Is she truly his daughter? We will take Dunwall to the pinnacle of strength, but Corvo's role in this cannot ever be recognised. He must be vilified, and when I take the reins of the city of the Empire, I will be seen as the hero and protector. Havelock log entry 6. Until we get through all of this and hold the coronation, nothing's certain. Dunwall Tower's got its own culture. No telling what could happen if we moved into the place too soon. The next steps must be handled carefully. Things are happening quickly now. I need time to think.
This is going back in time.
Havelock log entry 5. I'm just going to call them Havelocks now. Teague Martin is now High Overseer. He's a clever one and his ideas have taken us very far. Considering where he comes from, he should be very pleased with himself. Now we can be assured that the Overseers will support our claims, whatever they may be. There's only one man now standing between us and complete control of the Empire. The Lord Regent will soon find himself staring into that hideous mask of Corvo's, of that I have no doubt. But what happens after that? But he never did stare into my hideous mask.
No, he walked away and then...
Bzzz. Havelock entry 4. He's returning now with Anton Sokolov over his shoulder. Simply amazing. Not only can Corvo project lethal force, he can do an extraction that I didn't think possible. Yeah, neither did I. And soon the two greatest minds of the Empire will be here, together. If I could get these rivals to cooperate, they could create weapons and tools of unimaginable power. If I could command both of them, well, I'll wait and measure their dispositions towards one another before following that line of thought. You see that they got on very, very well.
Yep.
It's just that they were completely immoral piece of shits. Havelock entry 3. Pendleton was willing to go further than I thought. He served up his own flesh and blood to the cause, and I can see that he's truly loyal to the Empire. Could I have done the same if my brother was still alive today? Probably. Undoubtedly. Many innocents must be sacrificed for the good of Dunwall. Every loyal watchman that falls beneath Corvo's blade is giving his life for the Empire. Havelock entry 2. Well, it seems that we have invested in the right man with Corvo. Not only did he free Martin from the office of High Overseer... God, I just realised I did rescue Martin.
You did, yes.
Oh man, and then I let him kill himself. So but he went into that viper's nest and sorted out Campbell personally. With Corvo in our company, I suspect there is no one in the world we cannot touch. We are now committed to this path. There is no turning back. Havelock entry 1. It has been days since our men were dispatched to stash weapons for Corvo in the old sewer. They have not returned, so I can only hope that they succeeded in getting the packages delivered. Pierre has spent considerable time and resources making those things. If I could find a way to mass produce them, then Dunwall Navy would secure its place as the dominant force on the globe. But back to Corvo. Can he actually break out of Coldridge, and if so, will he make his way here? I personally give him odds of 1 in 5.
Well, there we go.
Well, it's like a great big list of things that I have... people I've killed.
Well, Teague could play some billiards, I guess.
This is absolutely, definitely the very final bit, isn't it?
The game running through the last person alive who can possibly oppose you and everything that he's done across the course of the game? No, definitely not the end. at the top of like a really climactic tower. What do you have equipped, Steve, right now? It's the big question. What do you want to have equipped for the final confrontation?
Emily banged her head in the confusion. They dragged her crying into the waiting boat. She called your name.
And she didn't have her hair done. Honestly. Right, well... I'm not entirely sure, actually, because this is going to be a bit of a tricky situation. Because he's absolutely, definitely going to have Emily up there.
Yep. That does seem reasonable.
So I cannot use explosive bullets.
You probably shouldn't, no.
I can't use the spring razor, proximity mine.
Probably wouldn't do that either.
I can't use the grenade either.
Wouldn't.
And I can't use rats.
No, because they will eat Emily. There are a few options you have available, but that's a good one. The crossbow absent bolts is not a good one, no. No, unfortunately, I don't think you can get up there. Oh, no, you can. Good job.
I'm always particularly fascinated by the very, 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 very final areas in video games.
Oh, yeah?
Because, like, you know, basically they're like the last sort of like, you know, you're about to finish our game and we don't know if you're ever going to come back to it. So these are the farewell memories that you're going to take of this game. And so I always find it fascinating when they put in a lot of effort into the very absolute final area in a game.
And what do you think of Arcane's effort here with this final area?
This is nice, actually. It's quite peaceful, actually.
I like the absence of guards at this point. So I think on low chaos there are more guards around here. But because they got drawn down into the fighting,
yeah,
they're not present.
What the? God damn it!
Quiet and move already, child.
Oh, jeez.
Hold still, stupid.
Let me go! I am the Empress!
Did you learn anything in your short life? Empresses are pieces on the moon. The Empress in some time. Everything has come to nothing. The plague will take us all. You could have sat on the throne with me behind you. Now Corvo is racing towards, ready to dash it all to bits.
Corvo's going to kill you!
Ah, hostage. Corvo's killed a lot of people, but he's terrible at saving empresses. He's the worst of us
We'll
all.
stop that, yes.
No! He loves me and he is my friend! And I am the Empress!
Ow!
Ah!
A little dignity, please.
I would
Go
not
now,
throw
you and me
the cat.
into the history books together. Say goodbye, Emily the
What the?
world is no place for little girls.
What the?
What are you doing?
No! Wrong one! No, wrong one! I don't. I want to blink. Fuck! Evelio! I activated the wrong power, Nat.
Oh, amazing.
Look, Blink is one away from devouring Swarm, okay?
Okay, so
Empress will sometime die. Everything has come to nothing. The plague will take us all. You could have sat on the throne with me behind you. But now Corvo is racing toward us, ready to dash it all to bits.
Corvo's going to kill you!
Ha! Posture. Corvo's killed a lot of people, but he's terrible at saving empresses. He's the worst of us all.
you didn't kill him.
I always knew you would come.
I can't kill somebody in front of Emily.
The others are all dead, aren't they? That's alright, because I was going to have them killed anyway. I am going to be...
Oh God!
Hooray!
Damn it! Corvo is the worst dad. Special actions read Havelock's Joe rescued Emily.
Oh, yes. There's an entirely different ending.
The end.
What will history tell us? That the daughter of a murdered empress ascended the throne up a mountain of corpses, carried by an assassin named Corvo? No. They'll say that little Emily Caldwin I came to power in an age of terror and corruption, and that she did her best in a world that is not kind to little girls or empresses.
Well, Dunwall will go to the rats.
As it should.
Sorry,
Whether
Sam.
the stories told mention you by name or not, she will remember you were there, Corvo.
In the greatest totalitarian empire the world of Dunwall has ever seen.
But somehow, also socialist. T, you murdered everyone apart from Havelock. You were then Emily executed.
Well, I kind of thought I couldn't kill her. I couldn't kill him right in front of her.
No,
Because that would have been a bit gruesome.
That would have been a bit mean, yes.
And, you know, right up until that point, I still kind of had a little bit of hope.
Aww. T, how did you enjoy Dishonored? Did you enjoy it? That's the first
I
question.
think I did enjoy it. I think I enjoyed it. I mean, stealth games in first person, like I've said throughout this LP, are not quite my thing, just because I find it very, very hard to just be completely aware of, you know, where everything is. Which, to be fair, I mean, it's, you know, quite. I say, you know, it's more realistic in a stealth game.
What did you think about like multiple approaches to the levels?
I think the multiple approaches to the level. I mean, I'm one of those people who I generally fail to see all the opportunities that are laid open to me. I think that's probably just. I don't think that's necessarily a fault of the game. I think that's just something that I think I generally suffer with. Like you could make something unless you made it absolutely blindingly obvious. Like, these are the things that you can do. These are the various routes that you can take. These are the options available to you. I think I'd probably not even realise what was available to me half the time. But maybe one of the ways that they could make that easier is to have a bit of variety in the level design, because, like, obviously, you know, there is a lot of, you know, if you reduce, you know, topographically and spatially, obviously, yes, there is a lot of variety, but I feel like I was going through like the same, with a few exceptions, like maybe the brothel. It did feel like it felt like a lot of the environments were very samey. Apart from maybe Granny Rags's, you know, terrifying sort of, you know, whalebone carcass magic demon graveyard.
Oh yeah,
that was quite cool. And the very final area was quite cool. So maybe if the level design had been a bit more visually engaging and a bit more varied, I might have been more aware of the multiple approaches.
Now, to be fair, that is something that Dishonored 2 fixes.
Ah, does it?
The level design is actually a lot more varied visually, I think, in that game.
Ah, good. Okay. Because I feel like there is potential in. I think when we began playing this, I thought, hey, there's quite a lot of potential here. You know, there's weird stuff going on with the whales and, you know, the rats and the outsider, but by the end, sort of, it doesn't really feel like anything particularly interesting is done with it. Like, they'll have lots and lots of stuff. You know, all the books will be constantly talking about, you know, the bloody whalers and, you know, and the fishing industry and, you know, various warehouses and things, but none of it actually feels like it really adds much.
Yeah, so there's very little of the actual occult going on in this game, outside of, like, you get put into outside dimension.
Yes,
right?
but not even like the occult. I mean, like, it just doesn't feel like there's a terribly interesting world out there. Like, it got to the point where I was like, if I'm going to read a book, it's probably just going to be about something not terribly interesting, you know?
I definitely agree, right? I didn't read very much.
Which is which is not a great feeling to have, when you get near the end of the game and you think, everything is terribly wordy and yet says so little.
Yes, I think you mentioned that before. I think that's actually a very fair criticism. I think they could have done with potentially less reading material that was more relevant to what was going on.
Yes, a bit more condensed, a bit more distilled, let's say. And again, is that something that Dishonored 2 fixes or improves upon?
So, I think there's still quite a lot in Dishonored 2 about stuff like this, but it's also a larger world, right? So you mentioned, for example, this is quite isolated, and small, and Dishonored 2 is a bigger game and a bigger area, so there's more to discuss. So I think there are fewer books that repeat in Dishonored 2, for example. Whereas we found a lot of books talking about the whaling the entire time, right? Whereas in Dishonored 2, because there's more of the Empire to look at, there's more variety in the book that you'll get. So maybe it's still not that much information, but it's new information at least.
Do you find that the world building and the the fluff, the lore, the setting is more interesting in Dishonored 2?
I think most people would say that Dishonored 2 is just a clear improvement in Dishonored.
Okay. Well,
I don't think anyone will really disagree with that.
Well, you say that. I'm not entirely disinterested in maybe saying what Dishonored 2 is like. Then.
I mean, we shall definitely get to it then.
Oh boy,
because this was hilarious. This was one of the funniest things I've ever watched.
Well, I did go into it thinking, I'm going to try and play this like a stealth game because I was like, Dishonored. There's a guy with a mask. He's got a cloak on. He's got a knife, and add all those things together equals stealth. But just for various reasons, I just think I too often felt like I was sort of just inadvertently tripping the alarms or sort of stuff, and just doing things that I thought were stealthy but which weren't sufficiently. And again, maybe that's because I'm used to stealth games where you've got a much higher.
So I think that there are two issues. One is the first-person environment, which we talked about. The second is you can't reload.
Well, there is that.
I think a lot of people who mess up stealth games will just reload.
Yes. So what we've really gone for is an Iron Man approach, as it were. That's
pretty much right. You only
that's the
reload
modern
one or two
in a
times.
stealth game, which I've never done before.
Yeah. So the game was much more about you adapting to situations where you made a mistake because you're not a master assassin.
Yeah.
And then trying to resolve that.
I mean, this has also made me realise actually how many mistakes I probably make in stealth games. Because a stealth game, I think of all maybe amongst genres, stealth especially has to make the consequences of screwing things up,
clear,
a
right?
real faff,
exactly.
and have real weight to them. Actually, and to be fair, I mean, I did feel like as we got on, I was conscious of things getting really, really, really worse. And although Samuel Beechworth's disapproval of me at the very end did come a little bit out of nowhere. It's like, Sam, I've been killing people this entire game.
That felt. So I obviously did low chaos when I played through, and he was quite complimentary of me, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas it obviously seems like a bit of a 180.
Yeah.
Given 2 seconds ago he's like, all right, let's get you to the White House, let's go.
I mean, if one, well, I mean, I may have to reserve final judgment on this game until I see Dishonored 2. But at the moment, I mean, it may be that Dishonored is kind of just Dishonored 1 is a test run for Dishonored 2.
In many, so I wouldn't say that. I think Dishonored was a complete game when it came out, and it wasn't really a test of anything.
Fair enough.
What they proved 10 years ago with this, I think what they did 10 years ago with this design is very good in many ways. That being said, I think Dishonored 2 is a very, very clear improvement.
Yeah.
They definitely took feedback from this game that I didn't even think of when I played it, to be honest. It's only playing the game with you now, and then knowing what I do in Dishonored 2 that I realise, they definitely did make these improvements.
Yeah. Yeah, I think part of me wasn't terribly impressed. I think when we began, I think just because of just in a way, it sort of felt like, it was something, it just kind of reminded me a lot of Bioshock actually.
Oh yeah.
But I think it did end up doing something interesting with the powers. I mean, the weapons are fairly sort of bog standard. I mean, you've got your exploding weapon, you've got sort of
you've got
the stealth weapon.
You have two varieties of gun effectively, right? Because the crossbow and the gun.
Yeah.
In the way that you're playing are basically the same thing.
You have quiet gun, you have loud gun.
Yeah.
You have tranquilizer darts, and you have gun.
And then you have two versions of explosives: quiet explosive and loud explosive, right?
Yeah.
Spring razors and.
So I think where it really shines is the powers. I think it's a shame that I never really opened my mind to the possibilities that each power could bring. Having said that, one could argue that one is never really going to be aware of of how much the powers, something like that, can actually change until you know what you're getting yourself into.
Oh yeah.
Like if I was to play through this again, I'd be like, oh, I could do this because I know this thing is coming up, and I could do this fun thing with this power that I hadn't used the last time. But the first time you go through anything, and again, I think this comes back to this, to this recurring issue through a lot of our LPs, in which that you and I just we tend to just automatically, maybe even unconsciously, look for the most efficient route. With a little bit of sort of leeway here and there for sort of what we think is interesting or entertaining, but generally we'll go like, okay, right, well, this is the straightest route, and I can do this. If I kill a few people, well, but sort of using powers in creative and interesting and inventive ways, I think you have to train yourself to be open to those possibilities.
So I think that there is a through line through all the games, like a lot of the games that we've played, right?
Yeah.
Where I contest that not having every power baseline is bad for the... Well, Dishonored is clearly intended to be played more than once.
Yes.
That's why it's got high and low chaos. The idea is that you'll play it twice.
Yeah.
And the second time you'll know more about the powers, you'll be able to experiment more.
Yeah.
That being said, if you play it one time, the exact effect you talk about happens, right? And because powers have rune costs...
You're never going to be able to really get everything in one.
You're not going to be able to get everything in one playthrough.
Yeah.
And you're not... When you do get a power, right?
You probably do get enough runes, I imagine, though, to at least have the basic form of all powers.
Absolutely.
So you can experiment, yeah.
But if you go, I really like time stop, you've got to spend 6 runes on the upgrade or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Now, and you never unlocked Wind Blast, for example, because you just never went, it doesn't sound that great.
Yeah.
I think and we can take this through back to, Bloodborne, where I didn't use half the weapons in the game because they required stat investments or things like that I didn't have.
It's like once you make that commitment at the beginning, it forces you down a path which actively discourages you from investing...
From checking out other things and trying out other things. And I think that more games should encourage experimentation.
The trouble is, though, how do you, make that sense, or how do you give a sense of progress? By granting new abilities, by...
through upgrades, usually, right? So bend time slows down time. You can then presumably understand what stopping time is.
Right, so you think you should have all powers sort of generally available to you at the beginning, but you should have upgrades for those powers become available as the game progresses.
Pretty
so
much,
that you can
right? You
feel
get
like
runes and you get upgrades. So you get a feel for which powers you like, and then you can upgrade them, and you feel some level of progression.
But then...
so even then, there's still that problem that we talked about of not potentially experimenting with everything, but you have a baseline understanding that you otherwise wouldn't have.
It would have been cool. I mean, slightly maybe too gamey, a bit too tutorially, but it would have been nice, where I think if we say we went with the approach that all baseline versions of the powers are available to you from the very beginning, that there was some kind of... Not literally, it was integrated into the opening level.
Yeah, that you get
that you could experiment with each power. This does this. You've got to use your powers, and then for whatever invent some reason where actually you don't have to use them again. But if you were to use time stop, this is what you could use it for. Or if you wanted to use Wind Blast, there is a time and a place for devouring people with rats.
I would also
I say that like it's some sort of
there's potentially another
social
way.
etiquette.
There's potentially another way, which is. You have everything unlocked, and then you have loadouts for each level that you can just access, and the number of powers that you can equip for the level is limited by your runes.
Yes,
right?
that could.
And so the more runes you get, the more access you have to powers, and as you get upgrades through the levels, you get bigger, more and more powers that cost more runes. And that way you can experiment and mix and match as you go through as well.
I think that would be a viable approach.
I think that would be a really interesting approach, and that's an approach I actually quite like for mission-based games like this. Because then you can tailor what you're doing based on the mission. You go, oh, I'm in a sewer, I'm going to use lots of rats because it makes sense here.
Yeah.
And have the rat possession power because I'm in a sewer. Whereas, I'm actually in a lighthouse. There aren't going to be that many rats up here in the lighthouse. I'm going to take blink because I know I'm going to be blinking between structures. Maybe time stop because I don't want to get hit by a Tesla coil that I know is up there, right?
Yeah. Because it definitely felt like some levels, some powers were not really as useful as others.
Yep.
I mean, and I guess trying to build an entire game's level design around, to make sure that each level, makes the powers equally viable and valid and useful would be a very, very difficult task. But for a game of this length, not impossible.
Again, I think the sequel does this better.
Yeah. I would say I would give Dishonored, if I was to go with such crude things as ratings, I would say I'd probably give this a 7.5 out of 10.
Fair enough.
I would say.
That's a reasonable.
I think it was entertaining. Would I have played it if we weren't LPing it? Probably not. But now that we have played it, I do kind of want to see what Dishonored 2 is like.
I'm excited for it. We'll definitely do it. But next time we're going to probably be doing an actual 20 LP.
Oh boy.
I haven't decided on it yet, but I'm thinking Metroid Zero Mission, just so we've got like a 2 or 3 week LP. It'll be fun.
Have you never played Metroid Zero Mission before?
No.
Oh,
I've never played Zero
you're
Mission.
in. Oh, you're
it's
in.
The last. I think it's the last big 2D Metroid that I've not really played, apart from Samus Returns on either version. We're not doing that.
No.
Because sod finding a Wii U emulator.
Yes.
I mean, technically, I could probably do it on Dolphin, but.
Zero Mission is great. It really isn't long, but it's. I think we need to. I think you and I should try and sort of accommodate perhaps a little bit of speed running because there is some great stuff. It is the absolute perfect sort of.
We'll have a look at it.
It's almost got an arcadey quality to it.
So I'm thinking of us doing that, and then the next Sonic game's coming out in about a month or so.
The next Sonic game?
Yes, there's a 2D Sonic game.
Oh, there is. I forgot about that.
And it's 2 players, so.
Interesting. Was it Sonic sort of? What was it Sonic?
Oh, I can't even remember at this point in time.
See, they all just blur into one. As soon as we knew it wasn't Sonic Mania 2, it's just more Sonic.
It's Sonic Superstars.
Sonic Superstars.
So all my Sonic videos have had an introduction where I talk about the Sonic series, and there's actually more information now on Sonic Mania and why there hasn't been a Sonic Mania 2.
Well, there hasn't been a Sonic Mania 2.
Yes, and so that'll be included as part of that video in terms of my journalistic.
Is it going to make me sad and depressed about the state of Sega?
Probably. Yes.
Oh. It's alright, we'll just have to start talking about Sonic the Comic and, try and balance it out with references to obscure characters that no one here has probably ever read.
And then also Silk Song when. I'll figure that out soon.
Hey, now, remember when we thought that Silk Song was going to come out earlier this year and we were like, in the autumn we'll do a Silk Song LP.
Oh.
Good times.
Team Cherry, I love you, but please release it soon.
We just need something to make the world seem like brighter, better place.
And to do that, we need a dank kingdom.
Full of bugs.
Yes. So with that, guys, that was Dishonored. Thank you all very, very much for watching. And we will catch you on the next LP.
The CA stands for callous and amoral.